I see some of like the big, like you'll see like a Taylor Swift, I'll have Taylor on, and she's like probably the most famous human on earth. To her, like happiness and success isn't just that. For her to get like some like alone time, like, you know, with her friends and family, cuddled up by a fire, like that makes her happy. I think about those things and I see these hugely successful people coming into my studio and sitting with me, and it's those things that they'll talk about that feel most meaningful to them.
That's Nicole Ryan, co-host of the Morning Mashup on SiriusXM Hits 1. And this is Make Yourself at Home, the podcast that takes you into the homes of people you admire to show you a side you don't usually get to see. I'm Kristen Twyford, and every week we'll talk to someone at the top of their career to explore holistic success and how work and home are inextricably intertwined. Along the way, we hope to inspire you to live well, whatever that means to you. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, the household management app designed to help you manage your home and everything that comes with it, so you can live with ease. Today, we're in Nicole Ryan's home in New York City, talking about how so much of Nicole's life has played out on the radio, and how she unplugs when her job and her life at home are so closely tied together. Nicole started at Sirius as a receptionist more than 17 years ago, and over time, unexpectedly found herself on the air. Now she hosts the Morning Mashup on SiriusXM Hits 1, as well as the podcast Have Kids, They Said, where she and her co-host Rich Davis get personal and laugh about the realities of parenting. In this conversation, Nicole shares some of the ups and downs of bringing millions of listeners into your personal life, and what she's learned from Ed Sheeran about how to focus on what's most important. Before we get started, I want to mention that earlier this week, Nicole returned to the air after recovering from a number of serious injuries. She was hit by a car on her scooter and spent 15 days in the hospital. Luckily, she's expected to make a full recovery and said on the Morning Mashup on Monday that it was the support from her Mashup family that helped her get out of the hospital so quickly. Our conversation was recorded before the accident, and we're so glad to share that Nicole is back at home with the people she loves most. Make Yourself at Home with Nicole Ryan. Nicole, thank you so much for having us into your home. I'm so excited to talk with you.
I'm so excited to be here. I feel like this has been a long time coming.
It really has. Well, thank you for having us into your home. Tell me a little bit about your space and why you love your home.
So my space is not a normal space because no one's space is a normal space that lives in New York City. So I've been here really since, not in this specific apartment, but in New York City since maybe a year after I left college. I was home for like a year, saved some money, and then all my friends from college, like high school, sort of moved to New York City. So I've been here for many, many years. But this space is the space that I've been in the longest. We moved to this apartment. It's on the Upper East Side on the 15th floor, right before my daughter's first birthday. So we've been here for a good amount of time, and maybe 7-8 years. And it's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, which is like a mansion in New York City, but it's like really only about 1,000 square feet. But you have to really, you got to work with what you got in New York City. So we've done like the most that we can to maximize the space. The 3rd bedroom, which is not really a bedroom, it's sort of like a little box. It's used as like a playroom now, sort of a storage room for all of our toys. But it was my husband's home office for a little while. Then once my son was born, it was his nursery, and now it's become the playroom. So you gotta have to like move with the times and whatever's happening in your life now, and decide what you're gonna turn it into. But listen, it's not very big, but it's our home, and it feels warm, and there's tons of pictures around here, and lots of just little things that make us feel like warm and cozy inside.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question too, is what does home mean to you? How have you guys built a home that feels like it's yours and it's the place where you belong?
I think it's important to not, like, some people are like minimalist, or like once you have kids, you feel very stressed out about the idea of not being able to have, the space doesn't feel like your own anymore once you have kids, because they sort of take over, all the baby stuff takes over, and all the child proofing takes over, and just all of their stuff, like all of their toys and all of their crap, really. And so it's important to try to sort of just carve out things that are just for you. So we have, I have like little areas where there's like candles, and I can kind of like light them and make them feel, it's like the house is bigger than it actually is. But what it means to me is just a place where you have comfort, where, whether you're coming home from a vacation, coming home from work, coming home from, whatever you're coming home from, you sit and you take a deep breath in, and it's like, this is where I'm supposed to be. There's something, it brings you comfort.
Mm-hmm. And I always love talking to people who have built their home in New York City. And I think for you, New York has really fueled your career and your life. How do you feel like New York is, part of your identity, or that sense of home in New York is, has fueled your life?
New York City has such an energy about it, and anyone, whether you've lived here, whether you've just visited here, it's like palpable, and it really is. And it's one of the things that keeps me here, and it's one of the things that I struggle with when we think about needing more space and feeling like the walls are kind of closing in on us, with a family. But it feels like there's no better place to be. It feels like there's always something interesting. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what restaurant's going to pop up. You never know what cool experience is going to, pop up in New York City. They have all these cool, experiences like Candytopia and the Troll experience. And there's a whole museum of what is it called? I'm like blanking right now, where it's like everything's like different perceptions and everything. I can't think of the word. Anyways, it's really, really cool. You go in and you're like in like almost like a funhouse mirror, and there's all these really cool things, and you never know who you're going to meet. And I think what I love about New York City is that it does not ever get mundane. It does not ever get boring. You always feel like things are going to be exciting. I never feel like womp womp. I never feel like I really fall into that much of a rut, because all you have to do is walk outside and you're there,
Absolutely. And so everybody knows you as one of the hosts of the Morning Mashup. And then you also have your own podcast, Have Kids, They Said.
Yes.
And you're pretty open about your life at home and your personal life on air. I want to see if there's anything that you think might surprise people about you and the person that you are at home.
Yeah, actually. I think that people would be actually surprised that I like to read a lot, because, like the boys on my show kind of make fun of me for like, there's this thing that we do, this bit on Fridays that we've done for so many years. It's sort of like, are you smarter than a fifth grader? So it's like common knowledge questions. They realized years ago that like they would ask something, or I would ask a question and they'd be like, Nicole, you don't know that? Like just things that through the years, like you didn't necessarily think, like it just didn't stick in my brain. I was not able to just keep that piece of information. And so I think sometimes I play into a little bit, I come across as like a little like ditzy, but like I love to read. Like there's nothing better than like curling up with like a cup of coffee or like a glass of wine and reading. And listen, I'm not reading anything that's like changing the world. I'm not reading like historical books, but like a good beach read, like a good mystery, a good romance. I mean, I really do love that kind of thing. And I'm kind of consumed by pop culture because that's what I talk about every day. We talk about all the celebrity world. Like I'm sort of like a walking, talking tabloid. So I think that people don't look at me as someone who might like pull out a book and read.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And on this show, we really love to explore that relationship between home and work. And I think you're in such an interesting position because your work is very personal and you talk about yourself a lot on the radio and your own life. And so much of your life has played out on the air. What are some of your favorite examples of that as you look back and think about your radio career? What are some of the moments that you're thinking like, oh, wow, I love that happened on the air? I
mean, a lot of things that I never thought would happen. I mean, I got engaged on the air. I went into labor with my second child on the air, which was sort of my fault because after having the first one, like, you're like, oh, like, I know what this is. Like, you know, your water breaks, you start having contractions, and you just kind of figure, I have time. Like, sometimes it's like hours and hours. It could be like a full day until you actually have the baby. So I was pretty sure that my water broke the morning I gave birth to my son, and I told my husband, I kind of whispered, because everybody's sleeping in my house when I leave, because I wake up at like, you know, before the sun comes up to go on my morning show. And I remember whispering to him when I was kissing him goodbye, I think my water broke, but I'll just call the doctor. I'll call the doctor during the show and just make sure it's okay. So, my contractions progressively got worse that day and that morning. And I eventually left and went to the hospital right after the show and proceeded to have the baby very quickly after that. So that wasn't ideal, but we have video from that, which is very cool. And then with my first child, you know, my husband obviously called into the show and said, she had the baby, and so everybody was like sort of coming along with me for this ride. And, and before I got engaged and got married and had kids, I talked about like my dating life. I talked about, all the horrible dates that I went on, all of like the funny dates I went on, all the guys that I thought maybe I would end up with. And they were kind of along with me for the ride when I was just like in my single days. So for them to go from that point to Matt asking me to marry him on the air, to getting pregnant, the wedding, the getting pregnant, having the babies, I feel like a lot of them feel like they've been doing this with me, like they're part of my family, and to me they sort of are,
Mm-hmm. And that wasn't necessarily something that you dreamed about as a kid, right? What was your dream job, and how does this lifestyle of, random strangers knowing about your life kind of fit into what you would have expected?
I was one of those kids who was like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to fight fires. Like, I had a new thing each day that I wanted to do. But, I went to school because I loved like marketing and public relations. Like, I love the idea of like being in the entertainment industry, but sort of behind the scenes. Like, that was always my thing. And I would be able to be creative, but not necessarily, be in front of the camera or be like, that was not really how I saw myself. So that's what I went to school for. So I did want to be in the entertainment industry, just didn't think I would ever end up on this side, on the talent side. So yeah, that was not what I originally had planned for myself. But God works in mysterious ways, and like you plan and he laughs. And I took this job at Sirius before Sirius and XM had merged, before Howard Stern had joined. I mean, XM was the only satellite radio company that existed when Sirius came along. So they had millions of subscribers. Then Sirius came along, and when I joined as their receptionist, by the way, I think it was maybe 100,000 subscribers. I mean, now it's like bajillions of people that listen every day. And I just remember speaking to my father, and I was very upset. Like, I think a lot of people are, like, especially now, I think that like students coming out of college expect to like have a high paying job or something really cool, like just forgetting that you have to sort of pay your dues. And I knew that I would have to do that. I just didn't like I knew it'd be like an assistant maybe, or a coordinator, and I'd be learning. But the ideas of just straight up answering the phone, I just couldn't believe it. And my father said, listen, take every opportunity as an opportunity. Like, it doesn't matter. Get in there, make sure you get to know everybody, make sure everybody knows you, and then you weasel your way in however you see fit, however you need to do it, you do it. So I did, and I did get offers to, work in the marketing department and the PR department, and interviewed for those jobs and was offered them. But I also was used as, a girl's point of view on different shows, or if they needed like imaging, if they needed like a jingle, not that I was singing, but like if they needed any copy read, or like, and they just didn't want to pay, they would just call me and I would come and do it. And, word sort of spread that I would, do this, and I was okay being on the radio, and I wasn't really like shy or awkward about it. And I had become friends with the guys on the pop channel, and they decided they wanted to add a girl to the show, and they asked me if I wanted to audition, and I just started to get, like my dad said, like, take this opportunity. You're never going to get an opportunity like that again. I knew I didn't know how to be on the radio, and they gave me a shot, and I sort of learned while I was on the radio. So it was crazy.
Amazing. And how do you feel like all of that changed your life outside of work? When you started to be on the radio every day, it has to change your life in so many different ways. And was there anything that surprised you about how it changed your life?
I could no longer really keep anything a secret. Like, if I was, let's say maybe I stayed out too late one night. I don't know that I did this all the time, but like I stayed out too late and I called out of work sick. My mom would call me and be like, where are you? What do you mean you're sick? Because she was listening. So there was like, everything was very, not public, like you're being chased by the paparazzi, but like, it was out there. And if it wasn't my mom listening, someone heard and called her and said, is everything okay? Or if I talked about anything, that was followed up by, a phone call, an email, what's going on. So there was that. Also, like, in a positive way, like, really great opportunities came my way. I started doing some TV things. I started getting called to do, like, roundtable things. I went on Chelsea Handler when she had her late night show on E! So I flew out to LA to do that. I had a show with Nick Lachey and some really funny comedians on VH1 called The Morning Buzz, Big Morning Buzz. We did that for a while. Just all sorts of really cool things, panel things, keynote speakers at things. So it opened opened up other doors for other streams of revenue too.
Amazing. And I can imagine that being on every day isn't easy,
No,
to
it's not.
always like have a smile on your face and, to be open and feel like you can't have those secrets even from your family. Like that
Right.
has to weigh on you. Can you think of times where it was more challenging to, come to work and be as open?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I have if you're going through anything personal, there was a death in my family, and before I was taking time to go deal with that, I had to go on and pretend I was okay because, my show is very lighthearted. It's super, it's like very bubblegum, and it's supposed to be light. No one comes there for any political conversation. They don't come there for anything like serious. They come for an escape, right? That's what our listeners come for. So they're coming to really just laugh and giggle and have it be like nothing serious. Just like what we do as like humans when we put on like a reality show. It's that same kind of vibe. And so I have to sort of pack it away or compartmentalize, or as my mom always says, put it on a back burner. We're just going to put it on the back burner, and then we'll come back to it in a little bit. So that was something. If I had a fight with my husband, like a really bad fight, or if there was something going on with one of my children, if somebody was sick. I mean, anytime like a real life thing comes on or comes into your life, you have to go on and sort of pretend that everything's rainbows and butterflies and sunshine. And that's just not the way that it is. Now, to that same point, I still very much am honest with my listeners and talk about all the real things that are going on. So without being like Debbie Downer, sometimes I will shed a little light on it and say, oh, it's been a crazy night. This happened. I just don't go into too much depth. But yeah, it can be challenging to put on a happy face when you're not happy that day. And most people can go into work, and if they're going through something difficult, bury themselves in their computer and like they're at their computer and just doing their stuff and emailing. I don't have that luxury. I have a camera on me a lot of the time, and I have a microphone in front of my face, and I have people to say, be happy to, So yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's challenging often.
Yeah. And especially if it's part of your job to share your own stories, I can imagine that gets even
Correct.
heavier.
Yeah. I mean, and again, sometimes I'll if it's not that serious, like let's say it is a fight, like I said before, let's say it's a fight with my husband and I'm really upset. And sometimes just to bring a little, what is it? I'm really blanking here today with all my words. Just to make myself laugh, I'll be like, okay, forget the fact that this is a very serious fight.
Right.
I will go on and be like, hey guys, my husband did this. What would you do? And we'll open up the phones, or like I'll post it on social media and I'll make it a thing so I can laugh. And then it kind of takes a little bit of like the air out of it. And it doesn't feel that serious anymore. So I try to use it sometimes. It's a little bit of therapy per se.
That's kind of nice. How does your husband react to that kind of thing? Or I can imagine anybody in your life, suddenly their life is a little bit more public than they had anticipated too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've for sure gotten myself into trouble with certain things. There was one thing that was actually a horrible. I mean, they weren't a good friend of mine, but they were friends of mine, and I had spoken about something that I thought was like a little like, I don't know, I thought it was like a little cheesy at their wedding. And I wasn't being very serious about it, but someone ended up hearing it and they were offended, and we are no longer friends. But I try not to ever use names or I'm not in the business of trying to hurt anyone's feelings. Like that's not really my thing. But I was trying to make light of something, and they took it very personally, and so that happens. But that doesn't happen very often. My husband's a little bit of a ham, so he can say all day long that, is anything sacred anymore? Like, or, he'll get texts from his friends, like, Nicole's telling the story. And he's like, are you serious? What are you doing? But yeah, I mean, I think that people have to, if they know, and sometimes like we'll be out and something will happen and they'll say, don't talk about this on Monday, or I'll be writing something down in my phone. Oh my gosh, I have to talk about this. This is the funniest thing. So I think people know. People know. Not that they have to like be careful around me. And if somebody said, please don't, I never would. I never would.
And your husband signed up for this. He met you after you were already
100%. And he loves it. Like he pretends he doesn't, but he loves it. And so much of it. And he always says, what would you do? You'd have no content without me. But that is so not true. He just happens to be a very, very entertaining human being. Mm-hmm. And because we do live in very close quarters, and we live in New York City, and we don't have like a very, typical life per se. Funny stuff happens. And I have to be honest. I started this show, talking about my life and being honest. So you're right. He signed up for it, and he should have known what he was getting into.
And even beyond that, I feel like your job has to affect your home life in terms of your schedule, right? How does your schedule impact, your day and your time at home and your time with your family?
So I don't have a typical schedule. I don't have something where I know that Monday through Friday I get up, I have to be at work at 9 o'clock, I get to leave at 5 or 6 or whatever. That's not how it is. Now, on some levels, that's very nice because I know that I could have a day where I'm done at 10. Because I'm up so early. But it's also challenging when you're juggling things like kids' activities, my personal life, things that I need to get done, errands I have to run, self-care, those types of things I might have to help my husband with, and having things being sprung on me. I could walk in the morning to my show, get there, the sun has not come up, like I told you, and I hear, okay, you have a meeting at this time, you have an interview with this celebrity at this time right after the show, and at 4 o'clock we need you to come, you're going to be on this red carpet. Sometimes those things pop up, and there is no, I don't really want to. I don't have the ability to just say, sorry, boss, not going to happen. So I have to juggle a little bit. I've gotten good at it. My husband has a very flexible schedule with what he does. He's in sales. And even before the pandemic, did a lot of stuff. Either, he takes clients out to entertain or maybe on a golf course, or he was in and out of the office. So I'm very blessed in that way that we can kind of juggle together. And he is a true co-parent. We really are halvesies. He's always like, okay, I'll take, our son here and you take our daughter here. And if we could, we're really good about splitting everything. But it can be very frustrating sometimes when I have these things pop up and it feels like my life's not my own and I'm a little bit of a slave to the industry. But at the same time, it comes with all these amazing perks. You get to meet all these amazing people and have these amazing experiences and these amazing trips when I go away for work. But sometimes you feel like your time isn't your own because this is what I'm doing, So there can be days where, like I said, I could be done between 10 and 12. My day's done. I have a day to do whatever I want. And then some days it's jam-packed with those random things that pop up. So, it's a double-edged sword.
Right. And I this kind of career is relentless. You're just kind of always racing. How do you feel like you strive to make the most of the time that you do have? How do you make the most of your time at home?
I do take time to rest. I joke sometimes because I wake up so early and I go to bed very early, but I wake up so early. You never get used to it. It never gets easier. And people say it doesn't. I still have a mini tantrum every single morning of my life when the alarm goes off, begging that I don't actually have to go to work. And the second I get up and I get in the shower and I have my coffee, I'm fine. But it's just that split moment when I'm like, no. What was your question again? I just lost your question.
Really, how do you make the most of your free time?
Yes, got it.
And how does your life at home kind of fuel you?
I just went into that tantrum for a second and was really feeling as though I was in bed being woken up.
It's easy to fall into. I got it.
Oh, and I just did. So I do. So I get super tired. I'm super tired. I could take a nap every day like a toddler. 100%. And that didn't used to be the case. I'm a very good sleeper. I can fall asleep at the drop of a hat. I've never had difficulty sleeping. So I often will prioritize that. If I feel tired, I will come home and I will say to my husband, or even if he's not here, I need to go lay down for an hour and done and shut off my brain, because not to, be woe is me, but being on and all just happy go lucky and entertaining, it sounds really fun and it is really fun. And I'm not saying feel bad for me, but you do leave the show and you're exhausted. It takes all this mental capacity. I can't really explain it.
Right.
And you're laughing and you're trying to make people laugh and it's all nothing's scripted. So it's a lot. So sometimes I just feel just mentally burned out. So I will make sure to give myself time to close my eyes.
Right.
I also really tried and I go on and off when it comes to meditation. I try to prioritize that because I am someone who is always going. I tried doing it at different times. I tried doing it like after work sometimes, right before I went to bed. I like in the morning, like if I give myself like 5 minutes to just sit down and meditate before I leave the home. So that's something that I think is really good. And like, I am not someone who works out because I'm like trying to like look a certain way. It's always been like a head thing for me. It's always been something that if I go and I sweat, it's cathartic, just like I know a lot of people, feel, and you can get like that runner's high, and it's just a way for me to get out some of that excess energy and that anxious energy. And I feel good when I leave. So I think it's really important to, just like the self-care in general. If like I need a manicure, if I need to go sit down for a half hour and have a manicure, that's okay. Like I really am a big, big person on self-care. I think everyone needs to prioritize self-care way more than we do as like a country.
Yeah. Absolutely. And when you think about success, I think we love to talk about on this show, not just career success, but holistic success. Mm-hmm. So what do you find that you're striving for? What does a successful life look like to you more holistically?
I mean, I think I heard this the other day that people shouldn't strive. Like, I hope one day I'm going to make this amount of money. Once I get this job, I will be happy. As long as you're constantly striving for growth, I think that should make you happy. And whatever growth looks like, whatever form that takes, whether it's growth in your relationship, just in your family and in work, it doesn't matter, in friendship. I just think as long as you're constantly growing and evolving, that's success to me. Mm-hmm. And so I try not to take on too much because I do get easily overwhelmed. So I try not to be like, one day I'm going to have like my own TV show, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That feels overwhelming to me. And I could say that. But that, I hope, I almost like baby steps. Like, I hope that by the end of this week or by the end of this month, I'm here or I've closed this deal. Those kinds of things. To not look at it so big picture, and just to feel like you're always moving forward in life. Like I said, with my husband, we're big on prioritizing us and making sure that like we're okay, and even like doing therapy together. We did couples therapy for a long time and stopped, and I think we're probably going to go back. Even when you don't have problems, just to sit down and work and grow as a couple, so you can grow your love and you can grow your relationship, and you can also be better parents and be better friends and be better coworkers. I just feel like success to me is constantly growing in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. And you interview so many interesting people every day. Do you feel like you're constantly kind of evolving your definition of success and learning from the people that you're talking to and thinking like, okay, how do I want to apply this in my own life?
Yeah, I mean, I do. You have to remember, and at the beginning when I first started doing this many years ago, it's like, yes, of course you can get starstruck, and I still get excited for certain people. If I'm, interviewing someone from a show that I'm obsessed with, or like an artist that I love, but you have to remember that they're just ordinary people with extraordinary jobs. That's really all they are. They're just like you and me. They get stressed out just like you and me. They have trouble sleeping just like you and me. There's a helicopter that's coming to get me. This is what happens when you live in New York City. Usually it's an ambulance.
On my street just a second ago. I think it's just making the rounds through the neighborhood.
Every time I do this, every time I'm doing any interview, there's always a fire truck. There's always something. So, you have to remember that. And once I remembered that, I eased up. I think my interviewing got better because it was more like I wasn't just like set with these like a bunch of questions and like ready to just kind of like talk at them. It became more of a conversation. And like, instead of just like going through my questions, it became this back and forth. And it usually, I'd have things planned and prepped out, but the interview now usually goes way different than I would have thought or expected or planned, because when you stop and you listen and you just let it happen, sometimes you get an even better interview. Sometimes you like go into topics that you never even thought that you would, because they're in for an album or a book or a movie or whatever they're in for. But yeah, I see some of like the big, like you'll see like a Taylor Swift. I'll have Taylor on, and she's like probably the most famous human on earth. I mean, she's just the biggest superstar ever. But like, to her, like, happiness and success isn't just that. For her to get like some like alone time, like, with her friends and family, cuddled up by a fire, like that makes her happy. To hear that someone's her song helps someone through a hard day or a hard time in their life. Like, to her, that's what the success is. It's not necessarily the money that she's making, because Lord knows she's got oodles of it. So like, if I get now I think about those things, and I see these hugely successful people coming into my studio and sitting with me, and it's those things that they'll talk about that feel most meaningful to them. And because they're in this crazy sort of paparazzi-laced, insane celebrity world, they're, I think, glomming onto those things more now because they can't have a typical life anymore. So I try to remember that it's not just the money, of course. Like, and I don't like when people say, money can't buy happiness. Obviously, it makes things a whole lot easier. But like, if I get a DM from a listener that says, I just want you to know that you are the reason that I can get to work in the morning. You make me laugh each day. I just want to thank you for what you do. Like, that's success to me. Like, that's my job. That's what I do. That's why I do what I do. Because sometimes you can look at what I do and it can look very, I don't know, like materialistic. And like, when there's people saving lives, there's doctors saving lives. Like, what do I do? Like, how am I helping the world? And to hear that I made someone laugh or made their day, they're having a bad day, and I made it that much better, like, that's success.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Can you think of one interview you did that made you rethink something in your personal life or helped you through a moment in your home life?
Yeah. Well, we had Ed Sheeran on a while ago, and we've had Ed Sheeran on forever, like since the beginning. We've had a lot of, like, that's my station. That's something that we sort of pride ourselves on, and we're sort of known for getting in with artists like early on in their careers and like sort of growing with them. And I am somebody who falls deeply into my phone. Like, I fall into, like, I'm like a robot, and it's something that I'm working on, and it's something that it's so cliche, but like, I stopping to smell the flowers. Then my daughter said to me, "Oh, Mommy, can you please put your phone down?" And I was like, oh my God, like, she said that, and then it like broke my heart, and I was like, yes, of course. And then we had Ed Sheeran on, and he said that the single greatest thing that he ever did was take a year off from his phone, not just social media, to a year off from his phone. Now he's Ed Sheeran, so he's got the ability to do that, right? He's got people helping, like, make sure his life actually continues to happen.
Yeah.
But just hearing that, like, someone like that big, who really probably relies a lot on social media and needing to be in their email, like, for their success, because that's part of their job, that he was like, it was the most freeing thing ever. So after it was like this perfect storm, like my daughter had said that, and then like Ed looking at me and going like, I was like, I don't even know if I could do it for like a week. Forget a day, like a week or a year, sorry. I was like, it's not important. Like, he does for a year, like, it's not important. Like, you're missing out on so much because you're so like wrapped up. And again, it's not just work. It's things that don't matter, like social media. I do not need to scroll through social media. What is it accomplishing? What is it doing? And then my husband stopped me when we were on the couch, actually soon after that. And, you know, when you're looking through your timeline of like on TikTok or on Instagram, and I was looking at their television, talking to him, and my thumb was moving, but I wasn't looking at my phone. And he was like, look at you. Like, look at you. You're not even looking. And I was like, you know what? It's so crazy. And then I heard Ed again, and I was like, you need to put down the freaking phone. But it's so crazy. There was something like that, like, this felt calming to me because I got so used to looking on these timelines of social media, like, platforms, that just moving my thumb like that was like, it was like it had become something that I just like I crutched on. I don't know.
Right.
So yeah, I think when he said that, I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. I have not put my phone down for a year, but just really it forced me to kind of stop a little bit more and like it's okay. Like there's people here in front of you. Like there's beautiful buildings. There's beautiful sky. Like there's things that you're missing because your head is buried in your phone.
Right.
Sure.
And there's such a powerful ripple effect there where you get to be present in those moments and realize, oh wow, I'm glad I was in the moment for this.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things that I think we're all sort of, you know, we've all fall victim to. I mean, it's like I'm not the only person, but
everyone
I mean,
does it.
Yeah, everyone does it, and it's like it's a serious problem. I think I read somewhere maybe you read it too, that there's something that like looking at our phones does like the same thing or sends like the same amount of serotonin or the same signals to our brain that like is when you like do drugs that are very addictive or eat sugar, like you eat candy or you eat something sweet. It's doing the same thing. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
It absolutely is. I definitely find that I try very hard to put the phone down, especially when I'm picking it up mindlessly. Yeah. That's the one that, upsets me the most, where I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about picking it up. Just put it down.
Yeah, you don't need it. There's nothing on there that you need. Everything you need is right in front of you, and it's so true.
It's so true. Well, Nicole, thank you so much. This has been such a fun conversation. I want to get into our lightning round of fun questions.
I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited.
I love a lightning round. I feel like you're going to crush it. So I'm really excited. Okay. So the first one is, what is your favorite space in your home?
Ooh, I mean, I think just my bedroom, but like specifically in my bed under my covers. I mean, I look forward to that moment sometimes, like from the second I wake up. So yeah, in my bed, in my bedroom.
Great answer. What's one of your prized possessions?
While I'm in that bed under the covers in my bedroom, my blankie. I am one of the only people I know in my life that still has the blanket that they came home from the hospital in. Oh. So I am 40. I just turned 40 in August. So
Happy
that
birthday.
thing is 40 years. Thank you. That thing is has really stood the test of time. It is 40 years old. It doesn't resemble a blanket anymore. But I mean, honestly, I might grab that thing before my kids if my house was on fire. I'm just joking, but you know what I mean.
Well, it would be so close to you already. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. You'd already be kind of holding it.
Yes, that's for sure my most prized possession.
What's your household pet peeve?
Ooh. Okay. Oh God, there's so many. I have 2 boys in the house, so do not leave the toilet seat up. Me and my daughter don't need that. I know that, again, that's probably very cliche, but I wake up in the middle of the night to pee, and I have fallen in way too many times. And it's because they left the toilet seat up. It's not okay.
That's just not nice.
It's just not nice. It's unkind.
It is. What's one thing in your home that makes your life easier?
I mean, the dishwasher. There's so many apartments in New York City. Like, I feel like half of my friends in New York City don't have dishwashers. And I don't know what I do. I'm the person who throws things in the dishwasher that my husband's like, that's not supposed to go in the dishwasher. And I'm like, well, I'm not washing it. So dishwasher, do your thing.
Have you always had a dishwasher in every New York City apartment you've lived in?
No. Yeah. Oh my God, at the beginning, I lived on a 6th floor walk-up. There was no dishwasher. Oh my gosh. No, mice. It was just, when you're first getting started in New York City, it is not like that. That is a luxury to have in your apartment.
It's very true. And what a nice, simple luxury to really celebrate.
Really?
It's just like one of those small things that other people take for granted, and New Yorkers are just like, this is the best.
It is. Yeah, that and to have a laundry in your apartment. Like most people have to go down to the basement or like outside in their hallway. Yeah, those are just the best.
Yep. What's one way that your home changed after having kids that surprised you?
That surprised me. Oh, I had no living room anymore. Like, I've always thought, like, I can keep their stuff, like, in their bedroom and, like, a little area in this room. No, like, people walked in and it looked like they were here to play, like, at a kid's play space. Like, it's just, they took over. I had, like, play mats everywhere, like, pretend kitchens. I promised myself I wouldn't let that happen, but there is no choice, especially with not a lot of room. So, yeah, that surprised me, even though it shouldn't have surprised me.
Makes sense. Who's one person that you admire who you think really lives well?
My mom. Like, am I allowed to say that, or are you looking for more of a celebrity?
No,
okay.
Of course you're allowed to say that. I would agree. My mom, too.
My mom is, like, someone who, she's just, like, so thoughtful. Like, she's always putting everyone before herself. Not in a way where, like, she takes a hit, but, like, she never misses a birthday. She never misses a phone call to check on something, even if it's, like, something small. Like, if you have, like, a cavity filled, she'll call, make sure you're okay. And I love that, and I feel like good things come to her because she's so good to other people. She's a nicer human being than I am. I just wish I could find that in me. I'm nice, but, like, she's just so kind, and I feel like when you live like that, good things happen to you.
Absolutely, yes. What's one thing that inspires you to live better?
My kids, for sure. Like, people talk about it all the time, but, like, you really do. Like, once you have them, it's not about you anymore. Like, I'll do anything to make them happier, have more fun, or healthier. Like, I'll hurt myself to help them. I mean, you not like, you know what I'm saying? Like, not actually, but I want them to have myself and my husband around for as long as they can. And so, you know, I try to be healthy, you know, obviously not all the time, but yeah, we try to live healthy, and I try to do everything I can to make them feel safe and that they're going to have us forever.
Amazing. Well, Nicole, thank you so much. This has been such a fun conversation, and thank you for having us into your home.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. There's not a lot of room, not a lot of space on the couch, but I'll get some bridge chairs for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Nicole Ryan for welcoming us today. Follow along with her at Mashup Nicole on TikTok and Instagram. I'm Kristen Twyford, and if you enjoyed our conversation, I hope you'll subscribe to Make Yourself at Home and leave us a review. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, household management software that helps you manage your properties and everything that comes with them, so you can make the most of your time at home. Learn more at ninesliving.com.